Hey history enthusiasts, in today's journey we crawl into the frigid, shuddering underbelly of a German supply vehicle. An Opel Blitz if fortune smiles, a patched-up horse-drawn wagon if it doesn't, as we trace the forgotten frontline artery, the drivers. You're not here to lead assaults or pose for heroic photographs. Your mission: keep engines fueled, feet protected, and rifles firing. You've just become an Eastern Front supply truck operator, and the statistics aren't exactly cheering. Before you drift off, feel free to hit like and subscribe, but only if deep-cut World War II narratives are your preferred flavor. Drop a comment sharing which city you're watching from and the current time. It never ceases to amaze me how far these gritty, slow-burn chronicles manage to travel. Now settle in. Let your thoughts decelerate. We're slipping into another era. No grand narratives, just the quiet instants that defined a generation. You're standing beside your truck in a clearing somewhere near Smolensk. The mud here doesn't splash, it consumes. Each step makes a moist popping sound, and the map in your grip might as well be tissue paper. The road markers don't correspond, rivers are misplaced, and villages materialize where none should exist. You glance at your commander, an Obergefreiter with half a voice and eyes that have seen too much, awaiting instructions. He mumbles something about Route 47, which definitely isn't on your chart. The engine sputters awake, grumbling like it also thinks this is terrible planning. The Opel Blitz wasn't designed for grace. It's a metal bread box on wheels. The canvas roof flaps like forgotten laundry. You're transporting crates stenciled in black, cartafilm, munition, bertrallage, potatoes, bullets, something classified, maybe socks, maybe state secrets. You don't inquire. This is your maiden run. Welcome to the supply chain, where the risks are just as lethal, but the prestige is significantly diminished. Frontline troops call you rear rats when feeling charitable and cowards when not. Funny thing, you're the reason their rifles don't click empty and their stew doesn't taste like despair. But sure, coward works. The convoy lurches forward with a cough and a moan. Dawn's barely broken, the sky the color of soiled bandages. The truck line stretches like a drowsy serpent across the frost-bitten road. You find the rhythm. Third vehicle in formation, behind a guy named Fuchs whose taillight clings through string and blind faith. The road rapidly deteriorates from cobblestones to something more conceptual. Every 50 meters, a pothole impersonates a crater. Russian mud isn't just dirt, it's ideological. It resists. It remembers Napoleon. German engineers joked it holds grudges, but nobody's laughing now. The Blitz slides sideways at walking speed. You countersteer like you're paddling a canoe. Your breath fogs the windshield. The heater died last week, and you're wearing every possession you own, including allegedly rabbit wool socks that itch like divine punishment. Beside you on the cracked leather seat sits a thermos of ersatz coffee and a heel of black bread hard enough to damage teeth. You consider a bite, then recall the last guy who chipped a molar and started whistling through the breach. You decide to wait. 40 minutes pass before the first checkpoint. Two Feldgendarmerie with metal gorgets and distrustful eyes. They move like the war owes them compensation. You present documents, trying to appear less clueless than you feel. They flip through your orders like searching for a missing punchline. Finally, one nods, slaps the truck twice, and waves you through. You drive deeper into this vast, frozen nowhere. The trees thicken, darken, pines stand like mute sentinels. Here's your first history nugget. By late 1941, the German military stretched 150,000 trucks thin across the Eastern Front. Most weren't designed for Russian conditions. Few had proper winterization. Opel Blitzes broke down so frequently that motor pools became graveyards for spare parts. But that doesn't help you now, because you just missed a turn. You're staring at three diverging paths, none labeled, none paved. Your map now as authoritative as a fortune cookie. Behind you, the fourth truck honks, sharp, impatient. Fuchs keeps rolling. You choose the middle path because it looks least threatening. The trees close in, mud becoming slush. After another hour, you pass a burned-out T-26 tank, half swallowed by earth like it tried crawling away and failed. No crew signs, just an abandoned boot and bullet holes telling stories you don't want to hear. Back in the cab, the radio crackles with static. Someone's shouting in code, probably HQ complaining about delays and unacceptable time loss. You reach for the receiver, then hesitate. You're not even sure signals reach this deep. And honestly, what would you say? Apologies, the mud's sentient and my truck is clinically depressed. You keep moving. You try thinking of anything else, whatever surfaces. You recall training. Barely. Mostly involved axle weight limits and field repairing fuel lines with gum and wire. Nobody taught you what to do when finding abandoned crates labeled in Cyrillic, or how to process seeing a fox dash across the road clutching someone's glove in its jaws. Here's another oddity you've learned. The Eastern Front teams with foxes. Not the animal, though those too, but clever types. Locals who pretend helpfulness while counting your cargo. Men in mismatched uniforms. Kids who salute with the wrong hand. Historians still debate whether occupied populations were cooperative, neutral, or resistant, but you're certain that bakery woman in Vitebsk sold your route to someone. She smiled excessively. Dusk arrives abruptly. You flick on headlights, one dead, the other flickering like it's haunted. The cold intensifies. The truck rattles like it's attempting spontaneous disassembly. Just as your stomach growls for the third time, the road opens into a small clearing. There, scattered among bare trees, waits the convoy. Trucks parked in a lazy crescent. Men crouched near low-burning fires. You pull in, the engine wheezing relief. No tents, no markers, just smoke curling into snow-ready skies. You survive day one. Sort of. The clearing smells of damp wool and fake coffee. Trucks huddle like beasts, engines ticking as they cool, frames protesting audibly. You climb down from the cab, knees stiff, back aching, the seat's impression still stamped into your bones. Someone hands you a tin cup before you can ask. It's warm, technically. Brownish. Vaguely liquid. You sip, immediate regret. They call it Kriegskaffee, or coffee. Roasted barley, acorns, maybe chicory if lucky. No caffeine, no comfort, just the pretense of warmth and the bleak camaraderie of shared suffering. One guy swears his tastes like scorched rubber. Another claims salt helps. No consensus, but everyone drinks. It's not about flavor. It's about ritual. You perch on an overturned crate near the fire. Sparks drift up like tiny deserters. Someone circulates a sardine tin with a spoon bearing teeth marks. You're still clutching your ersatz brew, watching breath fog the air when someone taps your shoulder. First run, the man asks. You nod. Then tonight, you're on guard. Naturally, there's a rhythm to convoy life only revealed through repetition. Drive, park, guard, sleep, poorly, repeat. You're not just a driver. You're a lookout, loader, mechanic, and occasionally, when things get strange, a translator for things you barely comprehend. Like why the rear truck's been silent for an hour, or why unfamiliar boot prints circle the firewood stack. As night fully asserts itself, you grab your rifle and patrol the perimeter. The snow's fresh, too fresh, the kind that muffles sound and makes the world feel padded and suspect. Firelight glows weakly behind you as you walk your route, ears tuned for branches snapping or owls that sound too deliberate. You're not supposed to be this close to front lines, but front and rear are theoretical here. One wrong turn and you become the front. You pass Fuchs' truck. He's inside, fast asleep, mouth open, radio playing something slow and crackly. You knock on the window. He waves you off without waking up. Typical. You walk on, the cold finding its way through every seam in your coat. Here's something peculiar. Most convoy drivers weren't actually trained for this. The Wehrmacht started drafting farmers, mailmen, anyone with a driver's license. By 1942, supply columns included men over 40, underage teenagers, even conscripted mechanics from other branches. You once met a guy who drove circus trucks in Hamburg. He still whistled tunes when reversing. You finish your rounds and return to the fire. Someone's roasting something suspiciously unlabeled on a stick. You politely decline. Your stomach has courage, but not stupidity. You sit. You wait. You listen. Nighttime conversations take strange turns. Half whispered, half grunted. The men talk about food, always food. bread that didn't crumble to dust, sausages that didn't bounce when dropped, a miraculous apple, a captured Spam tin, the legendary rumor of butter. Someone claims he saw a chocolate bar last week. Nobody believes him. You also learn convoy humor. Dark, dry, immediate. What's faster than a blitz on ice? The retreat. Or, what's the difference between frontline troops and logistics? Logistics never knows who's shooting at them. It's not exactly cabaret material, but it keeps your mind from dwelling on what lurks beyond the firelight. Eventually, your relief shows up. A private with acne scars and a kerosene-scented scarf. You exchange the rifle and the usual 5 warnings. Watch the tree line. Mind the stray dogs. Don't shoot at snowdrifts. You crawl back into your cab and curl on the bench seat. Jacket as a pillow, blanket over your legs. The entire truck groaning as metal contracts in the cold. Sleep doesn't come easy. You drift in and out, your brain replaying the same 2 memories on loop. Your mother stirring soup, and that pothole you hit 4 hours ago. Outside, the wind shifts. The fire pops. A tree creaks like it might fall, but never does. Once, you wake sweating, heart pounding, certain someone whispered your name. But it was just the canvas flapping. At least you hope it was. You wake again to gray light that makes everything look dusted with ashes. The fire's dead. Men are already moving, coughing, packing, hammering on frozen doors. One truck won't start. Not surprising. The driver has the hood up, swearing in 3 dialects while trying to unclog a fuel line with a pencil stub and divine intervention. You head to the supply crate for breakfast. A biscuit so dry it could substitute for roofing material, and a smear of marmalade so faint it might just be wishful thinking. Someone pats your back and mutters, "Day 2. That's when it gets real." He's right. Because convoy day 2 is when exhaustion becomes structural. Your eyes feel swollen, your neck too tight, and the truck's developed a new rattle that wasn't there yesterday. You roll out slowly, tires fighting frozen ruts. There's a stretch where you drive with one wheel on the verge to avoid a section that swallowed another truck last month. They never found the chassis. That's another unspoken rule: never stop. Not unless ordered. Not unless something's visibly burning. The longer you're stationary, the more things go wrong. Stukas, partisans, even your own HQ with sudden updates. Always keep moving, even if it's crawling speed. Mid-morning, your convoy hits a bottleneck near a frozen stream. A bridge, if you can call it that, spans the water like a rickety apology. Planks lashed together, a few barrels wedged beneath for support. The lead truck stops. Everyone idles behind, engines grumbling. A Feldwebel steps out to assess. He shrugs, then waves the first truck forward. It groans across, bouncing like a drunk moose. Everyone holds their breath. It makes it. Your turn. You ease forward, tires slipping on the approach ramp. The entire structure creaks. You're certain the wood beneath your front axle is younger than you are. Midway across, the truck leans dangerously right. You instinctively lean left, as if your 70-kilo frame could counterbalance 2 tons of steel and sausages. You make it. Barely. Someone jokes about charging tolls. Nobody laughs. You keep moving. Past scorched trees, abandoned bunkers, a signpost twisted by mortar fire. It still reads Minsk in crooked letters. Probably still wrong. Later, you spot something surreal. A piano in the snow. Just sitting there. No house nearby. No tracks. Keys exposed, a few broken. You stop just long enough to run a finger across the keys. A single note rings out, absurdly bright, like a ghost remembering music. Then you climb back in and drive on. That's this war in microcosm. Long stretches of absurdity punctuated by moments of slow dread. That night, the convoy camps near a half-destroyed rail station. You get the same terrible coffee, the same stories, and another guard shift. You sit, you sip, you wonder if that piano's still there. You quickly learn there's an art to avoiding bombs. It's not in any manual. Nobody teaches you. Unless you count warnings muttered over stew tins or carved into latrine doors like grim folk spells. Park under trees. Don't cluster vehicles. Keep trucks facing outward, engines warm. And when you hear that high-pitched whine above the clouds, don't freeze. Don't look up. Just run. It's mid-morning on your 3rd day. and you're already behind schedule. The sun's out, bizarrely, gilding the treetops in a way that feels less beautiful and more like an invitation. Aircraft love clear days. You've been told Stukas and IL-2s can't resist convoys like yours. A slow-moving buffet of unarmored trucks, barely defended, stretched along roads that can't decide between gravel and mud. You're sixth in line today. The air smells of cold metal, damp wood, and exhaust. The frost is melting just enough to make everything damp again. Up ahead, someone waves a red cloth. It's not a signal. He's just airing out his socks. Then you hear it. Not a whistle or scream. Not yet. Just a shift in the wind's hum. A change in the background noise of existence. Then buzz. The kind that vibrates your back teeth. You hear it before seeing anything. Then a glint in the sky. Too small for a bird. Too fast to ignore. The driver ahead shouts something. And within seconds, chaos. The convoy scatters. Not like trained soldiers, but like people who know panic intimately. You wrench the wheel and veer off-road into a copse. Branches slap the windshield like panicked fingers. You kill the engine and roll down your window, listening. And then it happens. A whine. A scream. An impact. Right where Fuchs' truck was parked. The sound of God dropping a toolbox. You flinch, but don't look back. You've been warned not to. You crouch low, hands on the dash, whispering a half-remembered childhood prayer. The trees shudder with a second blast. The Stuka dive bomber, Junkers Ju-87, the one with terror sirens bolted on, isn't even accurate half the time. But that scream does the job anyway. It makes men panic, makes horses bolt, makes you consider whether those trees might adopt you as a new route system. Historians debate whether late-war Ju-87s were truly effective. They were slow, lightly armored, vulnerable to fighters. But on a quiet forest road in occupied territory, with no air cover and no warning, it doesn't matter. One bomb is one too many. You stay crouched, listening to your heartbeat. The noise fades, then returns, distant now. The plane's moved on, maybe chasing another column, maybe just circling for sport. Either way, you're still here. You open the door and step out slowly, legs wobbling. The road scarred, still smoking. Fuchs' truck is gone. Just gone. No fire. Just shredded crates and a twisted axle. The convoy regroups, trucks emerging from ditches and trees like frightened animals sniffing for danger. One man emerges from a bush, cradling a potato crate like a wounded comrade. Still good, he mutters. You nod. The alternative is laughing. They send runners to check for crew remains, but most know better than to hope. The officers say nothing. There's an unspoken etiquette to these moments. No drama, no tears. Just tightened straps and glances at the sky, daring it to try again. You learned something else today. Always leave space between trucks. Close enough to follow, far enough that one bomb won't take you both. That space becomes sacred. Your buffer. Your chance to brake and veer into the unknown if needed. After delays, the column moves on. Slower now. Quieter. You think about how fast things unravel. 10 seconds of noise and chaos, and the rest of the day is echo. That night, you camp near a collapsed barn. You're paired with a new driver, Heller, who insists on sleeping beneath the truck for better acoustics. Claims he can hear trouble coming through the axle. You sip evening coffee by a feeble fire. It tastes worse than usual. Someone used engine coolant to rinse the pot. Nobody comments. You ask an older driver, Jansen, how many bombings he's survived. 14, he says. 15 if you count the one that missed by a kilometer but scared our horse to death. That's right, some convoys still use horse-drawn carts, especially further east, where fuel's scarce and roads are mythical. You passed one yesterday. 2 men in wool cloaks pulling medical supplies behind a shivering mare. They tipped their hats as you drove by. You waved back. Everyone's in this together, even the animals. There's a theory shared over stew. Bombers only hit moving targets. So if you feel targeted, the cook says, stirring, stand still. It confuses the gods. Nobody agrees, but it becomes the new superstition. That night, you hear another playing. No bombs, just the hum. And you lie there, pretending it's a lullaby. The next morning arrives foggy. visibility reduced to a few truck lengths. That should mean safety, right? Planes can't spot you. But it also means you're driving blind. The convoy slows to a crawl, your world shrinking to a gray tunnel of exhaust fumes, branches, and half-frozen slush. At one point, you pass wreckage in the trees, a downed aircraft. German markings, bent propeller, no pilot in sight. Someone scrawled, "Never again," in white chalk on the wing. Probably another driver's work. You stop just long enough to relieve yourself against a pine tree, wondering how many have died here unnoticed. The forest doesn't tell stories. It just absorbs them. Midday brings you through a village bombed last week. Charred rooftops, shattered windows. A child's shoe abandoned in the mud. A goat tied to a post, chewing newspaper. An old woman offers apples from a basket. The lieutenant warns against accepting anything. You take one anyway. It's bruised and sour, but you eat it. The truck behind honks twice. Back on the road. Later, you spot graffiti on a barn. Die Strasse kennt kein Mitleid. The road shows no mercy. Someone added a smiley face beside it, for irony. That evening, someone produces a harmonica, plays a melody that drifts up through the trees. You lie in the cab watching smoke rise from the fire pit, wondering what song you'd want stuck in your head if tomorrow's air raid is your last. Then you close your eyes and drift not into peace, but practiced resignation. This is the job. Drive. Park. Hope. Repeat. You've survived another day without getting bombed. And the coffee's still terrible. The engine refuses to start. It's 5:30 a.m. The sky's still black, stars fading like dying embers. You're already awake, already freezing, already regretting every life choice that brought you here. You twist the ignition again. The starter groans. The truck lurches once in protest, then falls silent. You glare at the dashboard as if intimidation might help. Welcome to winter in Russia. You climb out, boots crunching through fresh snow that fell overnight like nature's final insult. The air is so cold it stabs your lungs. Even your breath seems reluctant to leave your mouth. The Blitz sits stubborn as a mule, half covered in frost, the back canvas crackling as it stiffens. You lift the hood and peer into the frozen puzzle of wires and pipes. The oil resembles porridge. The fuel line has the rigidity of glass. Your fingers ache before you've even touched anything. Another driver walks past, shaking his head. "Didn't drain the lines?" he asks. "I did. Didn't matter." You fish out a rag and some twine, your makeshift repair kit, and begin coaxing life back into the beast. One mechanic once told you the Opel Blitz is like a grumpy old man. You can get him moving, but only after sufficient swearing and coffee. You're fresh out of coffee. The cold here has personality. It's not just temperature. It seeps into hinges, gums up gears, makes bolts moan and tires go square. Russian winter doesn't arrive, it ambushes. One day it's damp misery. The next, a glittering hellscape that freezes your bootlaces shut and makes spit crack midair. Historians still argue whether the Wehrmacht underestimated Russian winter or simply gambled on victory before it mattered. Either way, you're living the consequences in real time. Nobody issued you proper winter gear. Your gloves are thin wool. You've layered every shirt you own, yet your toes feel like ceramic. Finally, the engine coughs. Once, twice. You coax it like an old dog, gentle pats, whispered promises. Eventually, with a sputter and growl, the Blitz chooses to live another day. Relief washes over you like actual warmth. But you're not moving yet. Another truck is literally frozen to the ground, its tires iced into the mud. 4 men and a shovel attempt liberation. You join them. The shovel handle burns through your gloves. Every scoop throws up ice, mud, and ancient cigarette butts. 30 minutes later, the convoy finally moves. Slowly, a caravan of reluctant beasts dragging itself into pale morning light. One hand on the wheel, the other over the heater vent, which is only slightly warmer than your breath. The road is more suggestion than fact, more ice than gravel. Every turn's a gamble. Tires find no traction, only momentum and prayer. The truck slides at slight curves, fishtailing like a drunken reindeer. You overcorrect, undercorrect, then do both simultaneously. Behind you, someone skids into a ditch. Nobody stops. You just note it and continue. The driver will either get out or get replaced. By midday, your left foot goes numb. Not pins and needles numb. Just gone. You periodically thump it against the door to confirm it still exists. Feels like a boot stuffed with snow and regret. The officer in the lead truck orders a brief halt. Not for safety, for urination. 5 minutes. No wandering. No smoking. No chatting with locals. And absolutely no slipping. You climb out stiffly. One new guy tries lighting a cigarette, and his lighter snaps from cold. Another pisses too close to a truck's rear wheel and gets splashed by slush. Nobody laughs. Not today. Your thermos holds yesterday's tea, now a miniature glacier. You crack it open with your rifle butt and suck on a chip of leaf-flavored ice. Luxury. Then comes the first real breakdown. The truck ahead shudders to a stop without warning. No smoke. Just stillness. The driver leaps out shouting about the gearbox. He's right, it's jammed. Won't shift past second. The convoy halts. You pull alongside and help lift the hood. Steam wafts out like a sigh. It's not just the gearbox. It's everything. Hoses, clutch, transmission fluid. The truck's as frozen inside as the landscape. Two mechanics crouch by the engine muttering technical incantations. One taps the carburetor with a spoon. Another produces a candle to warm a junction box. You swear he crosses himself before lighting it. This is Eastern Front maintenance. Equal parts superstition, improvisation, and quiet despair. Eventually, they decide, transfer the cargo. You groan. Ammunition. Heavy, cold, awkward. You and 3 others unload crate after crate. Gloves slick with frost, shoulders burning. The crates thud into your truck like dead weight. By the time you finish, you've lost feeling in your wrists. You climb back in and check the dash. A new rattle. Naturally, the convoy moves again. Slower. Each truck more burdened. Each driver more brittle. Sometime that afternoon, snow returns, not gently, but like a foul mood. Thick flakes swirl from the east, coating the road, windshield, mirrors. You drive blind, trusting the truck ahead and the ruts beneath you. You squint at the landscape, but it's gone. Just white. Up, down, left, right, all white. Your eyelids grow heavy. Not from sleep, but from staring too hard at nothing. You try remembering what day it is. You don't. Someone said Thursday. Or Monday. You don't argue. The only clue is your beard. It's longer now. Iced at the edges. You rub your chin and wince. The skin beneath feels like sandpaper. You wonder how locals endure this. The Russians, the peasants you see chopping wood in coats of who knows what. They barely react. You've seen women hauling firewood barefoot. Others stirring pots in shell-damaged houses like nothing happened. They're not surviving winter. They're outliving it. One guy in your unit swears by animal fat rubbed on his cheeks. Another recommends vodka shots hourly. A third suggests spiritual detachment. You choose 2 out of 3. When the convoy finally stops for the night, it's nearly dark. You park on a slope, tires chocked with bricks, engine wrapped in a blanket like an invalid. You don't turn it off this time. Too risky. You let it idle all night, humming like a lullaby of rust. In the cab, you huddle under 2 coats, 1 blanket, and newspaper stuffed in your shirt. You gnaw on bread that tastes like last week's coal. Your teeth ache from cold. You attempt writing a letter. Pen in gloved hand. Ink frozen. Fingers shaking. You manage 4 words. Still alive. Coal. Then the pen cracks. That night, between exhaustion and frozen dreams, you hear someone whisper, "I'd trade my medals for a warm toilet." You chuckle quietly, because honestly, you would too. The locals observe everything. They don't wave. Don't speak. Just stand there, on doorsteps, in barn shadows, behind knee-high fences, watching. Old men with chiseled cheeks. Women with crossed arms and tight scarves. Children with bare hands and oversized eyes. Silent as snowfall. Still as statues. You roll past them in your groaning blitz. Axle squeaking. Windshield streaked with road salt and guilt. You avoid eye contact, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes they nod once. Other times they spit. This is your 5th supply run through the same cluster of villages, yet you still don't know their real names. Your map calls one Dorf 12, and signs are either bullet-riddled or painted over in red. You use driver nicknames: Cabbage Town, Goat Alley, Three Chimney Hollow. And the people? They don't forget. Doesn't matter if they speak Belarusian, Russian, Polish, they all remember. Which side you were on last time. Who took the last flour sack. Who toppled the church bell claiming it was scrap. Some smile at you, but it's the kind that says, "I know where you sleep." Your officer warns during briefing, no interaction unless necessary. Never leave your vehicle unattended. Don't accept food, water, or directions. Then adds, "But if they have eggs, let me know." Because truth is, locals are your only chance at anything fresh. Last week, a guy traded a petrol can for 3 onions and beets. Another swapped a spark plug for a boiled potato and nearly cried. One even got kissed by a girl who wore perfume like apples and gunpowder. He hasn't stopped talking about her. Probably poisoned, someone muttered. He ate it anyway. Today you're passing through Goat Alley again. Not on official route, but the main road's flooded and the bridge collapsed last month. HQ hasn't updated maps. You follow Fuchs. Yes, he's back. Or maybe another driver with the same name. They blur together now. Who swears he knows a back road? You bump along a narrow lane lined with crooked houses, with smoke curling into pale sky. Chickens scatter. A dog barks once, then vanishes behind a hay cart stacked with broken furniture. There's a woman at a well. She watches your truck pass, arms still, bucket halfway up the rope. Doesn't blink. You check your side mirror. She's still watching. You don't frighten them anymore. That's what unsettles you. You used to. That's what stories say. The Wehrmacht would roll into villages, boots polished, rifles gleaming, and locals would tremble. That's gone now. Replaced by this, weary contempt, cautious calculation, or something colder. Something suggesting they've seen worse than you. And maybe they have. You slow as the lane narrows, ruts deep enough to jolt your spine. A cart blocks part of the path. You honk, twice, polite but firm. No response. You get out, rifle slung but not raised. An old man steps from a doorway, wears an oversized cap and undersized coat. He limps over and, wordlessly, drags the cart aside just enough for you to squeeze through. You nod. He spits. You climb back in. Historians still debate civilian cooperation on the Eastern Front. Survival? Ideology? Revenge? Maybe all three. Collaborators, informants, smugglers, saboteurs. They wore no uniforms, carried no papers. Everyone was suspect. Everyone watched someone. Later that afternoon, you stop at an unfamiliar village. No name, just shacks and a brick chimney coughing smoke. The officer wants road condition updates. He takes you and another driver as backup. You park near the well and approach the largest house, probably the headman's, given its intact door and firewood pile. A woman answers. Maybe 30, maybe 60, or ages strangely. She lets you in silently. The house smells of dried fish, damp fabric, and faint bleach. Inside, a child sits clutching a one-legged rag doll. The officer does the talking. You scan shelves. Not much. Pickle jars, tin bowls, a twig and nail crucifix. The woman says the road ahead's flooded. Offers to show an alternate path through woods. The officer thanks her. She doesn't smile. Outside, the other driver whispers, "She's too helpful." You agree, but what choice do you have? Back at the trucks, someone's removed a valve cap from your rear tire. Small thing, barely noticeable, but deliberate. You fix it without comment. That night, you camp on another nameless hamlet's edge. You post one guard, then two, then three. Nobody says it, but you all feel it. You're being watched. Around the fire, someone tells of a driver who stopped for a waving child. Gave her candy. 10 minutes later, the convoy hit an ambush. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. Another shares how he saw the same old man in 3 villages. Same coat, same limp, same stare. "He's following us," he whispers. Nobody laughs. There's an unspoken driver hierarchy. Veterans speak little. Rookies talk too much. But all agree, locals know more than they say. They know which roads are mined, which houses are empty, which barns hide rifles. You once saw a boy, no older than 10, standing by a destroyed tank, a chicken under one arm, an MG ammo belt over the other. He didn't flinch when an officer shouted, just stared, the same stare you're getting now. Later, at a rare proper depot stop, a fellow gendarmerie corporal tells you most partisans don't wear armbands. They're not rebels, he says. They're shadows. They don't fight to win. They fight so you don't. You nod. You're starting to understand. Next morning, passing another village, a girl throws a snowball at your truck. It thumps the side panel. You look. She's smiling. Not a nice smile. You keep driving. On one house's back wall, red paint spells a message, probably Russian. You don't understand, but another driver translates. Winter eats iron. And men, you believe it. By midday, another checkpoint. 2 soldiers wave you down. You stop, hand over papers. They check your manifest, then your truck. What are you carrying? One asks. Potatoes, you say? He thumps the side panel. Hope they're not watching. You ask who? He shrugs. Everyone. As the convoy moves on, you check the mirror and spot the old man from earlier, the one who spat, standing by the road again. Watching. Always watching. You notice the silence first. Not the peaceful kind. This is the heavy, dense sort. The kind with corners. The kind that watches you. You're parked on the shoulder of a logging trail, waiting for a scout truck to return. The convoy's delayed, again, because the bridge ahead is not trustworthy, which is military code for it might collapse if you breathe on it wrong. While the officer argues logistics with a lieutenant, you sit in your truck, fingers tapping the wheel, staring at the trailing. And then you realize, no birds, no wind, no distant barking, just the creak of canvas, the occasional cough, the steady tick-tick of your engine cooling. Someone mutters behind you. They say the forest listens. You scoff, out loud, then stop, because it's not the kind of joke people laugh at anymore. You've heard the stories. Everyone has. Guerrillas, partisans, shadows in the birch trees, traps buried under snow, grenades tied to tripwires between roots. Even the saplings seem to lean in when you pass, as if trying to memorize your license plate. A few days ago, a supply run vanished. Entire column, 7 trucks, gone somewhere west of Orsha. They found the first one, burned out, bullet-riddled. The others? Still missing. Command blamed bad weather and navigation. The drivers blamed the woods. You turn to the scar-faced veteran parked beside you. Partisans, he shrugs. Could be. Could also be wolves. Could be both. He's not joking. Historians still argue how effective Soviet partisans really were during the occupation. Some say their sabotage was exaggerated. Others insist they were the most underestimated threat on the Eastern Front. But from where you sit, in a creaking Opel Blitz, clutching a bolt-action rifle and watching a pine grove too closely, they feel very real. Your convoy finally moves again, inching along a narrow path where branches scrape your side mirrors. You flip them inward and keep your eyes ahead. The truck behind you disappears from view around every bend. It's like driving through someone else's nightmare. Then you see it. A sign nailed to a tree. In Cyrillic. Freshly painted. Black letters. A red triangle. You don't know what it says. But Schuster, your translator, does. He squints, then mutters. Your boots will rot before you return. You drive faster after that. A few kilometers later, you pass a clearing with 3 burned trucks. German. Supply rigs like yours. Still smoking, though it must have happened days ago. No people. No crates. Just wreckage and 2 helmets nailed to a stump. You don't stop. That night, you don't park in the usual circle. The officer orders a scattered formation, staggered, lights out. Fire's banned. Smoke attracts attention. So does noise. You sit in your cab with your coat pulled up, listening. Every twig snap becomes a rifle. Every gust of wind a whisper in a language you don't know. Your breath fogs the window. You wipe it away, then wish you hadn't. You saw movement. Could have been nothing. Could have been a branch swaying. Could have been someone. You slide the window closed. That's when Heller tells you about the time partisans left calling cards. Not bombs. Not bullets. Just boots. Empty ones. Placed beside the trucks. Different sizes. As if to say, we were here. We could have. You ask what they did. Moved faster after that, he says. The woods here have layers. By day, it's hard enough. Misty trails, Phantom roads that vanish with the thaw. But at night, they change shape. Trees lean differently. Shadows stretch in ways that defy logic. You start to believe they're alive. Or worse, haunted by those who never left. Someone insists the Soviets used children as scouts. They sneak up to trucks and count the tires, he says. Leave a rock if they've marked you. See a stone near your rear wheel? You're marked. That night, you check. No rock. Next morning, the column pushes toward a remote handoff, some rail station near Bishankovichy. On paper, it's secure. In practice, it's been hit 3 times this month. Your cargo? Medical supplies, bread, boots, and a locked crate marked ZNTRLVRWLTUNG. Central Administration. Nobody knows what's inside. The road winds through dense forest. Visibility drops. Fog crawls across the ground like low tide. Your hands ache on the wheel, not from cold, but tension. You're not even breathing right anymore. You hold your breath around blind corners. At one point, the truck ahead brakes suddenly. You swerve, barely avoiding a collision. There's a fallen log across the road. Too neat to be accidental. The officer gets out, examines it. No wires. No mines. Still suspicious. The drivers wait in silence while 2 soldiers shove it aside. Everyone grips their rifles a little tighter. You move on, but you don't feel safer. Around noon, you stop at a way station. Just an old barn with no roof and a rusted barrel stove patched with solder and hope. Inside, a woman sells flatbread and watered beer for spare buttons or tobacco. You trade a broken compass for a boiled egg. It's greenish. You eat it anyway. Schuster shows you a postcard he found pinned to a beam. A pre-war Parisian woman holding a puppy. On the back, someone scrawled in Russian, "Don't forget we remember." You ask what that means. He shrugs. Whatever they wanted to. You drive on. That evening, just before camp, you pass a scarecrow hanging from a tree. Not straw, just a coat, trousers, boots, and a sign around its neck. Every step you take. You don't stop. The convoy camps in a shallow ditch. Trucks staggered. No fires again. The cold is sharp enough to feel personal. You wrap yourself in everything you own. Try to sleep. Can't. At one point, you get out to check the rear tire. Routine. There's a rock. Small. Smooth. Placed neatly by the wheel. You stare at it. Then pick it up. And throw it as far as you can. The depot isn't where it's supposed to be. You've been driving for hours, following orders copied by hand, twice, and signed by someone whose rank you doubt exists. The paper claims there's a supply depot north of Vitebsk, marked by a blue oil drum and signal flags. But the drum is red, and the only flags are tattered scraps tied to trees like they lost a fight with the wind. Fuchs pulls up beside you. This it. You both stare at the clearing. There's a building, low, half stone, half rotten wood. Smoke curls from a crooked stovepipe. A radio antenna tilts drunkenly. One solitary Krupp truck sits with its hood open, no driver in sight. No guards. No crates. No movement. If this is it, you say, it's very subtle. The officer steps out, waving the convoy forward with forced confidence. He clearly doesn't want to admit he's lost either. You park, kill the engine, and climb down. The snow crunches wetly underfoot. The depot's door is slightly ajar. The officer knocks, because apparently that's protocol, and steps inside. Nothing happens. You and the others linger by the trucks, exchanging glances. Heller checks his rifle. You check yours. 10 minutes pass. The officer reappears. Well, someone asks. He shrugs. They've got no record of our delivery. You blink. They what? No requisition form. No signed manifest. They're expecting bandages and canned meat. We've got boots and typewriter ribbons. You show your papers. They're stamped. Dated. Filed by Division HQ. You even have the ink-smudged receipt. The depot clerk, a gaunt sergeant with ink-stained fingers, barely glances. Not my department, he mutters. Something tightens in your gut. This isn't the first time. Paper trails that loop back on themselves. Orders that contradict reality. Warehouses receiving unrequested supplies while frontline units starve. Someone jokes. Maybe this place isn't real. It's only half funny. There's a saying among drivers. Das Phantomlager, the Phantom Depot. A mythical location where supplies vanish, records disappear, and crates of nothing get passed between units like a cursed relic. Some claim it exists to hide shortages. Others say it's just bureaucracy gone mad. Historians still argue how much the German war effort was crippled not by combat, but administrative chaos. Files lost, orders misrouted, units starving while warehouses overflowed with stocks 200 kilometers away. You are now, quite possibly, standing in one. The officer argues with the clerk. You hear snippets through the door, command chains, signature discrepancies, someone higher up. The clerk keeps repeating, "Not my problem." Outside, the drivers grow restless. You poke around the perimeter. A padlock shed, fuel drums that smell like rainwater, one split crate full of wooden shoe inserts. Someone finds a bicycle leaning against the back wall. No tires, no seat, just the frame and a horn that still works. Heller honks it. The sound echoes into the trees like it doesn't want to come back. You check your manifest again. Boots, yes. Typewriter ribbons, yes. Mail sacks, yes. A box labeled field theater props. Fragile, why? No idea. You stopped asking. After half an hour, the officer waves everyone over. They won't take the cargo. Murmurs rise. They say their registry's full. Storage at capacity. Unless we have a direct handover order from regimental command, they won't accept it. But this is the depot, you say? He gives you a look. Is it though? You ask what happens now. We hold the cargo until we reach the next forward depot. How far is that? He grimaces. Unknown. Which is military speak for somewhere not here. You sigh, climb back in, and stare at the frozen rye bread on your dash. It's hard as a brick. You knock it against the steering wheel. It sounds like one. Someone starts the engine. The others follow. The Krupp with the open hood never moves. Maybe it's broken. Maybe it's decoration. As you leave, you glance back. The depot already looks smaller. Fainter. Like it's being swallowed by the snow. You say nothing. The convoy follows a new route, barely a road. It twists through gullies and overgrown fields, sometimes dipping beneath sagging power lines that crackle like they're sharing secrets. The sun's setting, washing everything in dull amber. You drive until the stars return. That night, you camp near a stream and risk a small fire, just this once. Nobody talks much. Then Heller asks, what if it's all like that? The whole war. Just depots that don't want anything. Orders that go nowhere. You chew on the thought. Finally, you say, then I guess we keep driving. He nods. Someone produces a harmonica, plays 3 notes before it freezes. You all laugh. Quietly, a driver from the back walks over. Thin, exhausted. He sits by the fire and removes one boot. Inside is a potato. Found it at the depot, he says. Under a chair. Gift from the ghosts, someone mutters. You roast it anyway. That night, you dream of doors that won't open, papers that crumble when touched, and supply clerks made of smoke. You wake with a start. The fire's out. Frost has crept across the windshield like ivy. You're not sure where you are anymore, but you still have a truck. And tomorrow, it needs to move. The shortcut was supposed to save 2 hours. That's what the officer claimed, pointing at a pencil-smudged line on a crumpled map that looked more like a mistake than a road. Forest route. Locals use it. Good terrain. His tone didn't inspire confidence. He was holding the map upside down. Fuchs raised an eyebrow. Did we ask the locals? The officer ignored him. You set off mid-morning under a sky threatening snow. The shortcut began as a narrow dirt path flanked by gnarled birch trees and the occasional moss-covered milestone. At first, it was manageable, bumpy but dry. Sunlight even broke through the branches, and for a moment, you thought, maybe this time, it'll work out. That optimism lasted 10 minutes. Then the path narrowed. The mud thickened. Roots twisted up like angry veins. You downshifted and crawled forward, each jolt knocking your knees against the dash. Behind you, crates shifted, boots thudding inside their boxes as if trying to escape. The trees closed in, branches clawing at the truck like they wanted to peel the paint. The air smelled of wet bark, pine needles, and something else. Oil, maybe, or fear. You checked the fuel gauge. Just under half. Enough, if nothing went wrong. Something always went wrong. Historians debate whether the Wehrmacht's reliance on roads over rails doomed their logistics. But out here, you'd kill for a real road. Even gravel. This wasn't infrastructure. This was a dare. The first real trouble came at a slope. Not steep, just enough to notice. The mud turned slick, tires spun, and for one heart-stopping moment, the truck slid sideways toward a ditch. You yanked the wheel, tapped the brake, felt the whole vehicle shudder like it was deciding whether to flip. It didn't. Yet. Behind you, someone honked. The convoy halted. Engines idled. Birds scattered. Fuchs walked up, waving his gloves. We turning around. The officer stepped out, squinted at the path ahead. No. We continue. Nobody cheered. You got out to scout the next 100 meters. The road forked. One branch looked passable. The other dipped into a hollow where trees leaned so close they could have shaken hands over your roof. Guess which one the map said to take? Of course. You climbed back in and coaxed the blitz forward, wheels grumbling. The mud here didn't behave like mud. It was sticky, elastic, dough with a grudge. Every rotation felt like dragging the weight of a bad decision. Then you saw it. A checkpoint. Not German. Not official. Just 2 trees felled across the road, trunks stripped clean. A sign nailed to one read, "Stop pen." Not Russian. Not military. Just ominous. You stopped. The officer signaled a hold. You sat for 10 minutes. Maybe 20. No movement. No sound. The radio crackled with static. Someone suggested clearing the path manually. Someone else said turn around. Then a man emerged from the woods. Alone. Civilian clothes. Fur hat. Leather boots too clean. No rifle. No expression. He walked slowly toward the lead truck, hands empty, palms out. You couldn't see his face. The officer stepped forward, shouting broken Russian. The man said nothing. Just stood there, looking at the convoy, the tires, the covered crates. Then he raised one arm and pointed left. Into the woods. You waited. He pointed again, then turned and walked away. Nobody followed. Eventually, the officer muttered something and ordered a reversal. Backing up took forever. Mud churned. Tires slipped. Gears ground. You nearly clipped a tree. Someone else did. It took 3 men to push their truck free. You burned an hour turning around. The shortcut was a bust. You reached the main road by dusk, cold, tired, and more skeptical of local knowledge than ever. You hadn't fired a shot, hadn't lost a truck, but it felt like something had been taken anyway. Later that night, parked near a bombed-out schoolhouse, someone handed you a cup of hot water. Not coffee, just water. You sipped it like soup. The men around the fire were quiet. Heller finally spoke. Who was that man? Fuchs replied, the road tax collector. You laughed, but softly. Someone else added, that wasn't a man. No one asked what they meant. You unrolled your blanket in the truck bed beneath ration sacks. The night was sharp with wind and whispering trees. You closed your eyes and pictured that pointing arm. The silence. The choice you didn't take. In the morning, frost coated the canvas. And a single, deliberate footprint in the mud by your tire. Just one. The snow started before breakfast. Thick, aimless flakes drifting like ash. You chewed a ration biscuit that might have been older than you, the edges rounded from bouncing in your coat pocket. No coffee. No tea. The water bucket had cracked overnight, and your canteen was mostly ice with a memory of yesterday's soup. Today wasn't about driving. Today was about waiting. The road ahead was blocked. Too much snow, too risky for heavy trucks. Word was, engineers were building a bypass with logs and prayer. Until then, the convoy was parked in a staggered line beside shrugging pines. You passed time like always, slowly and with suspicion. You played cards with the fuel truck crew. One guy cheated so obviously it circled back to charming. Someone tried teaching chess with bottle caps on a crate lid. The board had 12 squares instead of 8. Nobody cared. You napped in the cab. Read an old newspaper from under your seat, 6 months out of date. Headlines about a Berlin parade you couldn't remember. There was a half-finished crossword on the back. You filled it with nonsense words and still felt accomplished. The cold pressed in, not dramatic, just steady. It leaked into your boots, found glove gaps, settled behind your eyes like a hangover. Heller tried lighting a fire beneath the truck to keep the oil from freezing. He used newspaper and petrol-soaked kindling. The smoke was blue and smelled like melted boots. Historians describe operational pauses as strategic necessities, time to regroup, resupply, repair. From where you sat, they were just intermissions for dread. Time to think. Time to remember how long you'd been out here. Time to wonder if that depot you were heading towards still existed, or if it ever had. The sky dimmed by mid-afternoon. The sun was more rumor than fact. You walked the convoy line just to move. It was eerily quiet. Men sat in cabs, some reading, others just staring. A few played music from a gramophone. The record skipped, over and over. The same half-bar of a march that never marched forward. You passed one truck with a snowman in the passenger seat. Button eyes. A pencil stub cigarette. You nodded at it like it was part of the team. You returned to your cab and closed the door, but left the window cracked. You couldn't stand the stale air. Unwashed wool, tired canvas. You rested your head against the glass and watched snow blur the trees until they looked like ink bleeding across paper. Then you heard the first crack. Not a gunshot. Not quite. More like a branch breaking under weight it couldn't bear. You sat up. The second crack was sharper. Closer. Then silence. You glanced toward the woods. Nothing. Then movement. Fast. Low. Could have been a deer. Could have been a shadow. You blinked, and it was gone. A few others peered from their trucks. One shouted, "Probably squirrels." Another yelled back, "Armed squirrels." Nervous laughter. Then silence returned. You climbed out and went to the fire pit. Now just black slush. You warmed your hands over it anyway, because hope was habit forming. Fuchs joined you, chewing something that might have once been cheese. "You hear it?" you asked. He nodded. "Could be nothing. Could be something. Everything out here's something." You both watched the tree lean. "Think it's partisans?" He shrugged. "Think it's winter." You nodded, because that was starting to feel like the same thing. Someone suggested watch rotations, though nothing official was happening. You agreed. Anything to make time feel meaningful. You took the second shift, late night, after the last whispers turned to snores. The forest was black and shapeless, a wall of maybe. You walked the perimeter, rifle slung, but safety off. You felt like a ghost haunting your own truck. Halfway through, you saw it, a footprint. Just one, near the third truck's rear. Not yours. Not any crew members. Wrong tread. Narrow. Barely sunk. Recent. You didn't shout. Didn't even breathe for a second. Then you followed its trajectory. Nothing. Just untouched snow. You woke the officer. Showed him. He said it was probably a driver relieving himself. You both knew that wasn't true. But there was no damage. No missing supplies. No alarms. Just one footprint. So nothing was done. You finished your shift. By morning, the road was still blocked. The engineers said another day. Maybe two. Maybe never. You passed time fixing things that didn't need it. Tightening bolts. Rearranging cargo. Writing fake letters you'd never sent. You tried writing to your mother. Got as far as "Dear Moody," then stopped. What could you say? Still alive. Playing cards. Watching shadows. Not exactly reassuring. Instead, you sketched the snowman from earlier. That felt more honest. That night, the gramophone played again, a different record this time. A waltz. The music wove through the convoy like smoke, pooling under the stars. You fell asleep to that sound. And the snow. Always the snow. By the third day, the road opened. Or rather, the truck stopped caring that it hadn't. You started your engine. The starter hesitated, then caught. The blitz coughed, sighed, settled into a low rumble. You followed the others out, tires crunching frozen mud, moving slow but steady. As you left, you glanced back at the snowman in the truck seat. It was still there. Someone had given it a name tag. Gefreiter Stillman. You saluted, and drove on. You finally eat something resembling food. Sort of. It's day. Well, you've lost count. The convoy has stopped for the night in what was once a farmhouse courtyard. The walls are crumbling, the windows gone, the barn roof missing most of its tiles. But the well still works, and there's a dry patch of earth near the foundation that, by your current standards, qualifies as prime real estate. Heller pulls something from his rucksack. "Guess what I traded for this," he says, proudly holding up a wrinkled string of sausages that look like they've been through the war themselves. You squint. Ammo. Spare fan belt. Criminal. He shrugs and tosses them onto a metal plate over a small fire. The smell is curious, like old meat soaked in rubber and desperation. Still, it's the most promising scent you've encountered in weeks. Your mouth waters despite your brain's protests. As the sausages hiss, you pull out your ration pouch and add a crust of black bread to the grill. It softens slightly, just enough to remind you that bread wasn't always this dense. The edge catches fire. You blow it out, call it toasted, and declare dinner served. Across the courtyard, someone's stirring a pot with a stick. You don't ask what's in it. The last time you did, the answer was mostly bark and the idea of cabbage. You all eat like kings who inherited a ruin. The sausages are chewy. Definitely not pork. Probably not beef. You chew carefully, not because it's tough, but because your teeth have become shy in this cold. One wrong bite, and you'll be gumming your way back to Berlin. You sip from a tin mug of hot water flavored faintly with a bouillon cube someone liberated from a medical kit. It tastes like salt and memory. As night settles in, so do the stories. Someone mentions the driver who traded a bottle of schnapps for a goat, then got reassigned before he could eat it. The goat became a mascot, rode in the passenger seat, wore a helmet. Last seen in Ukraine, saluting with a raised hoof. Another tells of the time a crate of chocolate bars arrived, and men cried. Literally, cried. Not because they got some, but because they didn't. The crate had been marked for officer morale distribution. It vanished overnight. Food is currency out here. But more than that, it's emotion. A good meal is a ghost of home. A bad one is a reminder of where you are. You once saw a man eat his entire lunch without chewing. Just swallowed it down, eyes closed. When asked why, he said, "If I chew, I'll taste. If I taste, I'll remember better food. Then I'll cry." He was promoted 2 weeks later. Coincidence? Probably. After dinner, someone opens a tin labeled Ergenzunsbrotofstrich TYPD, a spread made from peas, oats, margarine, and what might be glue. You try it on a cracker. It tastes like broken promises. Still, you're full. Or at least, less hollow. Later, you walk the camp's edge with your tin cups still warm in your hands. The stars are out, faint behind thin clouds. You hear the fire crackle, boots shuffle, men murmuring as they settle into their coats. A strange piece, this. You pause near the barn where the officer is arguing about fuel distribution. It's always fuel or socks. You duck away before they can recruit you into logistics. Instead, you sit on the farmhouse's stone steps and let yourself go still. That's when you notice it. Someone moving across the field, just at the edge of the moonlight. Not fast, not furtive, just there, walking the tree lane, then gone. You don't panic. You don't shout. You just sit, sip your salty tea water, and wait. Eventually, the patrol makes a round. You mention what you saw. They nod. "We see that a lot," one says. "What is it?" He shrugs. "Ghost. Scout. Farmer. You. Me. Hard to say. You don't sleep much that night, but not out of fear. Just thought. In the morning, breakfast is bark bread and something the cook claims is apple jam, though it looks suspiciously like mashed turnips with sugar. You eat it anyway. The trucks fire up one by one, each with their own particular cough and groan. You pat the dash of your blitz and whisper encouragement. It responds with a wheeze, then roars to life. You're proud of it, this tin beast that's dragged you across half of nowhere. As you load the last of the gear, you notice something tucked into your side mirror. An egg. Real. Uncracked. Still warm. No note. No explanation. You ask around. Nobody saw anything. Nobody claims it. You cook it on the engine block during the first halt. It slides, sizzles, and solidifies into the most perfect sunny-side-up miracle you've had since the war began. You split it with Heller. "Now we're definitely cursed," he mutters, mouth full. You nod. "Worth it." Later that day, a fuel barrel bursts open from the cold. You siphon what you can into jugs, spill half on your boots, and spend an hour smelling like a walking fire hazard. A box of replacement socks turns out to be full of paperweights. Someone blames a warehouse clerk with bad handwriting. Someone else blames the Ministry of Supply. Everyone laughs, but only with their mouths. That evening, A guy named Baumgartner shows off his secret stash, a tin of sardines he's been hiding in his coat lining for 3 months. You all cheer like he's found treasure. He opens it. It's empty. Inside is a single note, handwritten in French. Merci pour votre contribution. Probably a joke. Possibly a message. Definitely disappointing. You give him half your remaining sausage. That night, someone burns a handful of coffee grounds in the fire just for the smell. It smells like home. Then it smells like ash. You fall asleep with the memory of that egg in your mouth. It's the closest thing to hope you've tasted all month. Smoke on the horizon always means something. Whether it's hope or horror depends on who's looking. And right now, you're squinting hard through a dirty windshield while your truck groans up another shallow hill. Its engine making sounds that suggest it would rather be literally anything else. A barn, maybe. A sled. A pile of useful scrap. The day started clear, one of those brittle winter mornings with light so sharp it makes the snow look surgical. But now, around midday, the air thickens. The smell arrives before the smoke does. Not firewood. Not cooking. Something heavier. Oil. Cloth. Rubber. You've smelled it before. You never forget. The officer in the lead vehicle slows the convoy. No radio orders, just a raised fist from his cab window. You roll to a halt behind him, engine idling. The silence settles, disturbed only by static and the occasional cough from the truck behind. The smoke stains the sky like bruised ink. It curls upward, ignoring the wind, rising in lazy pillars from beyond the trees. Village, Fuchs asks. You shrug. Or a fuel depot. Or us in 20 minutes. You don't laugh, because he's probably right. The officer steps out and confers with 2 others over his truck's hood. You can't hear them, but you guess the tone. Clipped, firm, uncertain underneath. Eventually, one gestures toward the smoke and taps his own chest. Volunteers. Naturally. And because you're lucky or unlucky, depending on your current philosophy, you're chosen to drive one of 2 scout trucks. No crates. No trailer, just your half-loaded blitz and a passenger with a map and binoculars that fog up the moment he breathes on them. You drive off-road, tires bumping over frozen clumps of grass and half-frozen ruts that used to be fields. The trees thin, and then, there it is. A village, or what's left of one. The roofs are half-melted, walls torn open like dollhouses. Black scorch marks run up the sides of brick chimneys. Smoke still leaks from a few places, not rising, just seeping. Everything smells like yesterday's fire and last week's fear. You stop at the road's edge. The passenger raises the binoculars and scans slowly, exhaling through his nose like a bull. Then he mutters, "No one." You get out, rifle slung but unsnapped. The air is still warm here, unnaturally so. Beneath your boots, ash mixes with snow, and the ground crunches in an unfamiliar, rubbery way. You step past a burned fence. The remains of a barn squat beside a pond, its reflection broken by ripples you can't explain. A single door hangs from one hinge, swinging slightly. It makes a soft knock with each sway. Like a question, you walk carefully. Every pile of rubble could be a body or a stove or both. Every shoe, every chair, every half-scorched pot is a story you don't have time to learn. There's a well in the village square. A rope still hangs from the beam, taut. The bucket is gone. The crank is scorched. And beside the well, someone's written something in the soot of a broken window pane. You don't speak Russian, but you recognize the shape of a word when it's drawn by someone angry. A swirl of consonants. Sharp edges. 3 lines under it, like they wanted it to shout. You turn back toward the truck. The passenger points. You follow his finger to the far side of the village. A figure, moving slowly. It's a man, limping, civilian clothes, smoke-stained, holding something to his chest. You call out. He stops, doesn't answer, just stands there. You walk toward him slowly, rifle down. When you're 20 feet away, you realize what he's holding. A chicken, still alive, barely. The man looks at you with eyes like cooled ash. Not pleading, not angry, just watching. You raise a hand. Do you need help? He says something. You don't understand. Then he lifts the chicken toward you. Offers it, 2 hands out. You take it. It's warm. Real. Feathers sticky from smoke and panic. You nod thanks. He nods back. Then he turns and walks away into the ruins, disappearing behind the cracked frame of what might have been his home. The passenger joins you. Do we report survivors? You look down at the chicken. It clucks once softly, as if to say, don't. No need, you say. Back at the convoy, the officer takes one look at the smoke and waves everyone forward. No detour, no investigation, just a brief word passed from truck to truck. Keep eyes open. No one asks questions, not because they aren't curious, but because they're tired of answers that don't help. You drive past the village in a long, slow line. The men glance out the windows, some craning their necks to see the damage. Others keep their eyes on the road, pretending not to notice. One man crosses himself. Another mutters something about partisan revenge. Historians still argue whether it was the Germans who torched the village during a retreat or Soviet partisans trying to deny supplies. You've heard both versions. Neither feels good. Both feel possible. As you pass the well, you think of the message in the soot. You wonder if it was a warning or a prayer. A few kilometers later, you stop at a wide bend and make camp. No one says much. Heller makes a stew with dried lentils and leftover onions. Fuchs plucks the chicken, which has been riding in your cab like a minor officer. Turns out, it's tough. Barely edible. Still, it's warm. It fills the belly. That counts. After dinner, you stare at the fire, thinking about the man in the ruins. You wonder if he's still there, if he's alone, if he even wanted to give you the chicken, or if it was his way of saying, go. You wrap your coat tighter. The fire pops. Sparks drift into the dark like tiny deserters. Tomorrow, you keep driving, and you hope the next smoke you see is someone's chimney, not someone's ending. They tell you to guard your own fuel with a bayonet. No escort, no infantry support, no proper sentry unit with steel helmets and crisp salutes. Just you, a wooden crate marked benzin, and a dented bayonet that wouldn't intimidate a goose. The order comes casually, as if it's perfectly normal for someone hauling 50 liters of liquid gold to also serve as his own security detail. The reason? Fuel theft is up, the officer says. Then, deadpan, and bandits are getting clever. Clever, he says. You've heard the rumors. Trucks disappearing without sound, barrels vanishing from guarded depots. One story claimed a fuel convoy was ambushed not by partisans, but by German deserters. They'd rolled up and captured vehicles, speaking flawless Bavarian, took the petrol, and left without firing a shot. You don't know if it's true, but you know this. People will do anything to keep moving. And out here, fuel is motion. Motion is life. So now you have a bayonet strapped to your belt, and an extra magazine that might or might not be full. Your truck is parked with the others in a staggered line along the tree line, canvas covers tied down with rope, chains, and whatever trust remains. You've been told to sleep lightly. You already do. That night, there's no fire, no jokes, no harmonica, just watch rotations. And silence. Thick, heavy silence, broken only by the occasional creak of a truck settling into the frost and the soft crunch of boots on snow. You take the second shift, starting just past midnight. The moon's a sliver, barely enough to cast shadows. You pace slow circles around your vehicle, boots crunching, breath fogging, bayonet loose in your hand like a polite threat. You see nothing, hear nothing, until you do. It's soft, a whisper of movement, not a twig snap, just a shift. You freeze, strain your ears. There, a shape. At the edge of the trees. Low. Crouched. You raise your rifle, but keep the barrel down. WW2, you call out. No answer. You call again. Still nothing. You take 2 steps forward. 3. The shape bolts. Fast. Too fast. You don't chase. You don't shoot. You wait. Then return to your truck. Next morning, one of the drivers finds a barrel unlatched. Still there. Just loosened. Another finds boot prints. Not German issue. The officer shrugs. Could have been animals. Fuchs mutters. Yeah, animals that untie knots. Breakfast is stale oats and a strange paste someone insists is pork. You chew it like an act of defiance. Schuster joins you, sipping hot water from a tin cup. He has circles under his eyes and a strange look. I've been thinking, he says. Dangerous. About the barrels. You raise an eyebrow. He leans in. If I were them, whoever they are, I wouldn't steal fuel. I'd poison it. You stop chewing. He shrugs. A liter. 2. Taint the batch. Engine dies halfway through the forest. You disappear. You stare at the barrel. You don't finish your breakfast. Historians still debate the scale of sabotage on the Eastern Front. Some claim it was rampant. Others say it's exaggerated. But out here, surrounded by things that creak in the night and footprints that don't match any of your boots, the debate feels academic. You tighten the ropes on your cargo. You sleep with the rifle within arm's reach. You don't drink the mystery tea offered by a stranger near a depot the next day, even though it smells like apples. The next fuel stop is just a shack and 2 men with frosted beards. They nod at your papers, roll out a barrel, and tap it with a pipe. You fill your tank slowly, listening for anything suspicious. The fuel looks fine. Smells right. Still, you say a small prayer to whatever god governs combustion. As you screw the cap back on, one of the bearded men offers you a cigarette. You take it, but don't light it. Back on the road, the engine hums. That's good. Heller's truck develops a stutter. That's bad. You pull over to check. The fuel line's clogged. Probably nothing. Possibly everything. He fixes it with a rag and a sharp whistle. You both keep driving. Later, the officer tells you 2 trucks ahead had to be abandoned. Fuel fouled with water, maybe. Or sand. Or sugar. Nobody knows. Nobody wants to know. You sleep lighter now, even when you don't mean to. That night, you find a note tucked under your windshield wiper. Folded once. Neat block letters. Just one word. Stalin. Count. You count your barrels. Still there. You count your tires. Still there. You count your breaths. Harder. The next morning, you report the note. The officer frowns, files it in his satchel, and never mentions it again. Fuel continues to vanish. The bayonet stays at your side. It never feels sharp enough. The town was supposed to be secure. That's what the orders said. That's what the radio message repeated twice. A forward unit passed through 4 days ago, swept the area, confirmed no Soviet presence, and reported the local population as cooperative but low in number. You remember those exact words because they sounded safe. They weren't. You arrive just after noon, bouncing across frost-bitten cobblestones into what looks like a postcard ruined by bad luck and long war. The buildings stand mostly. A few are scorched, one roof has collapsed under snow, and there's a shutter banging open and closed like it's trying to say something. But there's no fire, no gunshots, no visible resistance. Just stillness. Too much stillness. The convoy stops in the town square. It's wide and uneven, ringed by shops with broken windows and paint faded to ghosts. A fountain in the center is frozen solid, the statue of a horse now wearing a scarf of icicles. You kill the engine and step out. The air smells of smoke, dust, and something faintly sweet, like apples gone sour. There are no people. None. Not even the curious child or the bent-backed grandmother you usually see watching from behind a curtain. Just silence. The officer barks orders to begin unloading. The manifest says you're dropping supplies here. Field blankets, tinned meat, radio parts, and a crate labeled medical. Handle with care, though it's been upside down since Smolensk. You and 2 others pull back the canvas and start handing down boxes. The sound of boots on stone echoes far too loudly. Every cough sounds like a gunshot. Every crate you stack feels like a question no one is willing to ask out loud. You see a shadow move past a window. Then nothing. Schuster leans toward you. I don't like it. Yeah. No welcome. No locals. No resistance. Just absence. You nod. I liked it better when they spit at us. A few men fan out to search nearby buildings, rifles loose but ready. You and Fuchs stay behind, guarding the trucks, watching the doors, watching the rooftops, watching everything. One of the search teams returns. The bakery's full of ash. The oven's still warm. You raise an eyebrow. That means someone's here. Or they just left. A long pause. Or they want us to think they just left. The officer orders everyone to move faster. You finish the drop-off in record time. Crates stacked in a half-collapsed post office. Blankets dumped beside a desk, still bearing a nameplate. The town remains utterly, unnervingly quiet. No cats. No dogs. No birds. It feels performed. like a play stage for an audience that never arrived. On your final pass, you spot something scratched into the base of the fountain. German, but sloppy. Rushed. 2 words. Nickdallion. Not alone. You don't say anything. You just throw the last crate onto the pile and get back in the truck. The officer gives the signal. Engines cough and grumble. Tires crunch, and the convoy moves out. You don't exhale until you're past the town limits, and even then, it feels premature. About 5 kilometers down the road, someone asks, "Did we leave anyone behind?" A full head count confirms, no, but the feeling lingers. That night, you camp just off the main road in a tree-covered hollow. It's quiet here, but in a softer way. The trees whisper. The wind hums. Even the fire feels less judged. You sit with your mess tin and try to forget the statue in the square, the note at the fountain, the warm oven, the missing eyes behind windows. Someone says, "It's worse when they don't shoot." No one disagrees. Historians still discuss whether ghost towns like the one you passed were true evacuations, staged traps, or illusions born of fatigue. You're leaning toward a fourth option, performance. A statement. A lesson meant for someone not brave enough to teach it directly. Heller passes around a jar of something claiming to be jam. It's not, but it's sweet, and that's rare enough to feel like treasure. You take a spoonful and close your eyes. The world slows. Then Schuster whispers, "What if they never left?" You open your eyes. He's staring into the fire. What? The town. The people. What if they're still there? Just choosing not to be seen. You want to laugh. You don't. The wind shifts. A branch falls in the woods. Everyone looks. Nothing comes of it. But nobody forgets. Next morning, you find something tied to your truck's rear axle. A strip of linen. Clean. Frayed on one side. Rolled into a knot like it had a purpose. You show it to the officer. He squints. Shrugs. Probably caught on something. You don't argue, but you tie it around your wrist anyway. Later, you stop for repairs outside another village. This one not abandoned, but not exactly welcoming. A boy sells eggs for a price only an officer can afford. A woman offers bread with a smile that ends too soon. A man sharpens a scythe and never breaks eye contact. You get your oil changed. Fix a bent fender with a hammer and a length of chain. You refill your canteen from a pump that leaks sideways. As you leave, the same boy from earlier runs up and tosses something into the back of your truck. You turn. He's gone. You climb in and dig through the canvas. It's a toy, a small wooden truck, painted gray, wheels missing. You stare at it. You don't throw it away. You return to base like a ghost no one was expecting. It's not even really a base. Just a crumbling brick depot outside a town that used to have a name before it was shelled into memory. The sign at the gate reads Abteilung 3B Naxjub, Supply Division 3B, but someone's crossed out the 3 and replaced it with a question mark in black paint. That feels about right. The convoy limps in just after dusk. Trucks sag on their axles, engines wheezing, canvas flapping like worn sails. You're dirty, sleep-deprived, and too tired to care that your boots are leaking again. As you pull into the yard, a man with a clipboard stares at your license number and then waves you to park near rusting fuel drums. He doesn't smile, doesn't speak, just scribbles and moves on like he's checking inventory in a junkyard. You cut the engine and sit in silence for a moment. The truck creaks as it cools, ticking like an old clock winding down. You rest your forehead on the wheel and exhale. Then you hear it. Papier. Papers. The word hits your ears like a wet sock. You look up. A Feldgendarmerie corporal stands at your window, goggles perched on his cap, a baton under one arm. His boots are polished. Yours look like they've been at war with the war. You hand him your papers. He scans them slowly, frowning with increasing interest. This says you delivered in Sector 6. You nod. We did. There is no Sector 6. You blink. There was. He lowers the papers. Not anymore. A pause. Then he waves you off. Go speak to the depot clerk. See if they have a new manifest for your return trip. Return trip? You haven't even eaten yet. You dismount stiffly and walk across the yard, boots crunching on gravel. The depot building leans at a suspicious angle, its windows frosted over with ice and cigarette smoke. You open the door and step inside. Warmth. Noise. fluorescent lights flickering like tired eyes. 3 clerks sit at desks, each surrounded by piles of papers that look untouched since autumn. One drinks tea from a tin cup labeled property of Carl. Another is asleep, head resting on a ration tin. The third, short, balding, glasses that catch the light at odd angles, motions you forward without looking up. Unit. You tell him. Manifest number. You give it. He flips through a file, pulls out a paper, hands it to you. You scan it. It's for someone else. This isn't mine. He shrugs. That's what I have. But it's for a motorcycle courier. Congratulations. You wait. He doesn't. Eventually, you ask, so what do I do now? He sighs, removes his glasses, and rubs the bridge of his nose. You wait until someone above my pay grade decides whether your route existed. If it didn't, you'll be reassigned. If it did, you'll be reprimanded for not filing a follow-up form. But I filed. Not with me, you didn't. You leave the building with a new kind of headache, the paperwork kind. The kind that creeps behind your eyes and makes you fantasize about defecting to the post office, just for some sense of structure. You walk back to the truck and find a replacement driver climbing into the cab. Hey, he pauses. Orders. Truck's being reassigned. To who? He shrugs. Not my department. You protest. The officer from earlier appears. Is there a problem? You want to say yes. You want to list every kilometer, every missing crate, every insult and whispered warning carved into your skin. Instead, you say, no, sir. He nods, walks away. You watch the truck drive off without you. You're handed a new assignment, assisting with base operations until further notice. No new truck, no new gear, just a clipboard and a cot in a drafty warehouse that used to be a school gymnasium. The chalkboard still says tagged or Cartafellant, 1937 in ghostly writing. You meet the other drivers. Most are like you, scraped raw by the road, dumped back here to wait for someone to remember they exist. A few are fresh, too clean. They ask questions you don't answer. You help load crates, fuel drums, salted fish. You stamp forms. You eat cold bread with mustard powder and call it flavor. You dream of roads and smoke and the single egg that changed your week. One day, you see your old Blitz roll back into the yard, muddy, dented, with a new coat of paint and a different number. The driver doesn't even see you. He's too busy arguing with a mechanic about tire pressure. You walk over when no one's looking and place a note under the driver's seat. It says, she likes to stall on cold mornings. Give her 5 seconds before the clutch. Then you walk away. Historians rarely write about these in-between days. The ones filled with waiting, with forms, with shoes that don't fit and orders that don't land. But they're real. Maybe more real than the convoys and the firefights and the frozen mud. Because this is what war also is. Standing in a line that doesn't move. Carrying a crate that isn't yours. Sleeping beside a man you'll never speak to. Waiting for a name to be called that might never be yours again. You're not sure if your route existed. You're not sure if you did. But you're still here. For now, you're sent forward again. No warning. No new boots. Just a barked order and a slip of paper with a name you don't recognize. A destination that isn't labeled on any reliable map. And a timeline so optimistic it feels like a dare. Critical ammo resupply. The clerk tells you without looking up. You're rerouted to a forward artillery position. Coordinates here. Be fast. Don't stop. And try not to break the shells. You want to ask, what if I get lost? You want to say, what if I'm ambushed? You almost whisper, what if I die? Instead, you salute, take the papers, and go find your new truck. She's smaller than your old Blitz. Narrower wheels, thinner canvas, labeled with chalk. Lucy. The name feels like a joke. The engine grumbles like a cat too old for mice. You're assigned one companion, a loader named Merrick. Young, too young, smells like soap and winter. Doesn't talk much, but hums a tune now and then. A lullaby, maybe, or a funeral march played backward. The two of you drive out in mid-morning haze, tires crunching over ice, the shells and back secured with rope and wishful thinking. Your orders are clear: deliver, report, return. No detours, no exchanges, no delays. Then the clutch fails. It doesn't go with a bang, just a slipping whisper. The pedal loses tension halfway between first and second gear. You stall on a hill and coast to the shoulder, Lucy wheezing like she's ashamed. You and Merrick climb out. You pop the hood. The clutch cable hangs like a broken violin string. Well, Merrick says, that's not ideal. You nod. She's sensitive. You dig through the emergency kit. 2 wrenches, gloves missing a finger, a bolt that fits nothing, and a spool of wire labeled butyl-dry. Good wire. It isn't. Still, you jury-rig a patch using a loop and a prayer. Takes 30 minutes and half your patience. Merrick stands watch, rifle loose in his hands, eyes fixed on the woods. I saw movement, he says at one point. You don't ask where. You finish the patch and try the engine. It coughs, catches, growls. You ease into gear. The clutch holds, barely. You roll forward. Still want to be a driver? You ask. I wanted to be a teacher. Smart man. You drive on. The road grows narrower. The snow thicker. Visibility shrinks. The trailing creeps in like it's watching. That's when the Luftwaffe shows up. Not friendly. You don't even hear it at first. Just a low rumble, too steady for wind. Then Merrick shouts, and you both look up. A single plane. Maybe Soviet. Maybe captured. Circling like a lazy hawk. You gun the engine. Lucy screams. You duck behind a stand of trees, tires bouncing through underbrush, hoping the canvas camo blends with the snow. Merrick crouches beside the cab, rifle across his lap, breathing too fast. The plane doesn't strafe, doesn't bomb. It just watches, then drifts away. But the damage is done. You wait another 10 minutes before moving. Merrick checks the shells. One's shifted but not cracked. You both exhale like that's permission to carry on. The coordinates lead you to a crossroads where the signs have all been removed. One arrow nailed to a pole simply reads, still. You laugh. Merrick doesn't. You pick the left fork. 2 kilometers later, you hit another problem. A tree across the road. Fresh fall. Pine. No scorch marks. No rot. Clean break. You stop. No wind today, Merrick says. Nope. You both climb out again. He covers you. You approach the tree. There's something tucked in the branches. A scarf. Green wool. Tied in a knot. You remove it carefully. Then notice the ground. Footprints. Not yours. Not Marek's. Recent. Close. Too close. You retreat. No way through. Merrick asks. We need to cut it. With what? You shrug. You backtrack. 2 kilometers in reverse. Merrick scans the woods the whole time, knuckles white on his rifle. Eventually you reach the fork again and take the right road. You don't say it, but you both know. Someone wanted you to choose the left. And you did. And they were waiting. Historians still argue whether partisan activity was truly that organized, or if fear simply filled in the blanks. But you've stopped caring about footnotes. You care about routes. And getting Lucy to hold together long enough to reach the artillery position before sunset. By some miracle you do. It's barely a camp, for guns dug into the frozen hillside. 6 men who haven't shaved since October, and a cook who offers you soup that smells like boiled rags. They take the ammo without ceremony, just nods and muttered thanks. One man slaps your truck like it's a horse. She's uglier than sin, he says. But you got her here. That's all that matters. You sit for a moment on an overturned crate, breathing steam. Merrick eats the soup. You don't. The cook smiles at you with 3 teeth and says, careful on the way back. People vanish on this road. You nod. You believe him. As you drive away, you notice someone scrawled a message on the side of your truck. In chalk. 1 word. Zurich. Return. You don't erase it. You just keep driving. Back the way you came. Wondering who wrote it. And whether it was meant for you or Lucy. The front folds like wet paper. No warning. No signal. Just a ripple through the lines that reaches you the way cold creeps in through boots. Slowly, then all at once. It starts with the radio. Static, then silence. Then static again, only now it sounds nervous. Then comes the message. Change of orders. Convoy return to fallback position. Effective immediately. You glance at the map. The fallback position is 60 kilometers west. The road back isn't a road anymore. It's a memory. Merrick looks at you from the passenger seat. We going? You nod. What's behind us? Don't ask. Nobody says retreat, but everything smells like it. The depot is half-packed when you roll in. Crates abandoned mid-lift, a field stove still smoldering, and a typewriter sitting on a bench like someone meant to finish their sentence but got called away forever. Someone's chalked a skull on the side of a fuel drum. You wish they hadn't. The officer gives quick orders, eyes flicking from clipboard to sky. Fuel, ammunition, medical. Everything else stays. His voice is calm, but too fast. You see it in his hands. He's already counting what he can leave behind. Some men are good at tree-off. Others just run. You're told to load 5 crates into Lucy. Merrick helps. They're labeled Zentral ammunition. You try not to ask what that includes. The last one rattles. You check the tires. She's low but steady. You check the engine. She growls but wakes. You check the rearview mirror and see nothing but smoke rising in the east like a curtain falling. The convoy departs at dusk. Headlights are banned. The snow makes the world blue. You drive without speaking. You pass vehicles facing the wrong direction. One truck burned out, its tires puddled into black glass. A staff car left at a crossroads, both doors open like it tried to escape itself. Every shape looks like it might move. Most don't. One does. It's a soldier walking down the center of the road with no coat and a rifle slung upside down. You slow. He doesn't look at you, just keeps walking past, lips moving. Merrick opens the window. You need help? The man doesn't answer, doesn't even flinch. You keep driving. Historians will call it tactical withdrawal. You call it running with luggage. At one point, you hit a patch of ice. The truck fishtails. The crates shift. Merrick shouts. You regain control, but barely. Lucy groans like she knows her limits are close. You take a break near a broken bridge. There's no fire, just breath and the ticking of engine metal. Merrick lights a cigarette and offers you one. You take it. You don't smoke. You do now. Think we'll make it, he asks. Which part? He doesn't answer. Neither do you. Back on the road, you pass a group of horses pulling a cart stacked with radio parts. The driver waves once, then disappears into the trees. The horses look confused. You start to count the kilometers. 24 left. 17. 12. Then you see it. A checkpoint. German. Feldgendarmerie. Reflective discs on their collars like dead moons. 3 men. 2 rifles. A folding table. A lantern. You slow. They step forward. One waves you down. You roll the window halfway. Papers. You hand them over. He scans the page, then stares at you. This cargo is not approved for movement. You blink. It's emergency resupply. Fallback order. Doesn't say that here. He taps the form. This route is restricted. Turn back. You lean forward. Sir, with respect, there's no back left to turn to. He looks at Merrick, then back at you. Then he sighs and waves you forward. We never saw you. You nod. You drive. Merrick exhales. What happens if we get stopped again? We keep driving. At kilometer 7, a flare goes up behind you. Red, then green, then nothing. You don't ask what it means. You just shift a second and don't stop. At kilometer 4, a body lies on the side of the road. You don't stop. At kilometer 2, Lucy starts to rattle. Hard. One of the crates bounces once, then twice. You stop. Merrick jumps out and reties the rope. You listen to the engine breathe. She's tired. You're all tired. He slaps the side. She'll make it. You nod. And then, headlights ahead. Real ones. Soft. Yellow. Moving slow. You squint. Not a truck. Not a tank. A bicycle. A man riding a bicycle with a lantern strapped to the handlebars and a sack over his shoulder. He's whistling. He passes you with a nod. You don't even process it. Merrick says, I don't know what part of this war is real anymore. You drive the last 2 kilometers in silence. The fallback camp is a field. Half mud, half intention. Tents like mushrooms. A generator humming in the distance. Men sitting on crates like statues with rifles. You pull in. No one cheers. But someone points to an empty space. You park. You cut the engine. You exhale. You've made it. For now. You sit in the cab long after the noise settles. Merrick sleeps beside you, head against the window. You watch the snow fall again. It looks the same here as it did in the east. But everything's changed. The last convoy out doesn't look like a convoy. It looks like a funeral procession that took a wrong turn into a scrapyard. For trucks, 2 carts, 1 fuel drum strapped to the back of a motorcycle that hasn't had brakes since October. You're at the head, Lucy grumbling under a lighter load than usual. The crates are gone. The cargo now is people, mechanics, clerks, a field chaplain with a cracked Bible, and a quartermaster who keeps checking his pockets like he's lost his name. No one talks about what's behind you. You don't need to. The last of the forward base was packed in less than an hour. Fires doused, rations dumped, files burned, radios smashed. A single boot sat on a table near the latrines. No one claimed it. It's probably still there. You were told, just drive west until the signs change. No one knew what that meant. The roads are barely there now. Just white scars between trees. Every kilometer feels like a gamble. You steer wide around anything that looks like a bump. Could be a rock. Could be a mine. You pass signs with names scratched off, rewritten, scratched off again. Identity seems optional now. The sun tries to rise, but changes its mind. Merrick hums quietly beside you. It's not the lullaby this time. Just a tune without a key. The first town you pass is empty. Again, except for laundry. Strung between 2 buildings, frozen stiff. Shirts, a scarf, 2 pairs of trousers. No footprints. No voices. Just laundry waving goodbye. The chaplain crosses himself. You keep driving. At a bridge, a man in a fur coat stops the convoy. He holds no rifle, just a red flag and a box of bread. He says nothing, just points west and hands the first driver a roll. You get nothing. You don't complain. Someone's posted a new sign on the bridge. No maps beyond this point. Just memory. You drive on. The forest breaks for a moment and reveals a field of white tents. Refugees. Civilians. Dozens of them. Maybe more. All quiet. All watching. One waves. A child. You wave back. The chaplain offers to bless them. The officer tells him, later. You all know there won't be a later. Historians debate how many civilians followed retreating armies. Some say hundreds. Some say millions. You see 27 faces. That's enough. Someone in the convoy starts coughing. You all tense. He stops. You pretend it didn't happen. You pass a barn with a message painted on the side. Tomorrow doesn't want us. Today barely tolerates us. You believe it. The fuel begins to run low. You check the gauge every 5 minutes. Lucy's thirsty. You try to coast on the downhills. Feather the clutch. Whisper encouragement. It helps. A little. Merrick finds a tin of sardines in his coat. You share it. It tastes like salt and victory. The wind picks up. Snow swirls like doubt. Then you see it. The last checkpoint. It's barely a shape at first. Just 2 vehicles parked at an angle. Then you see the lights. Dim, flickering. A lantern hangs from a shovel. 3 men step forward. One raises a hand. Not to stop. Just to say, we're here. You roll to a halt. Papers. You hand them over. He reads. He nods. You're the last, he says. You already knew. Anything behind you. You think about it. Then say, just absence. He nods again. Then he points west. There's a road 10 clicks on. Not good, but real. That's the best news you've heard in a month. You thank him. He hands you something wrapped in cloth. Take this. You unwrap it. It's a loaf of bread. Still warm. No one asks where it came from. You drive on. One by one. The convoy rolls past the checkpoint. No one waves. The snow thickens. Visibility drops. Then, the final stretch. A cracked signpost reads, you have left the zone of operations. Welcome to whatever's next. You laugh. Quietly. Not because it's funny, but because Lucy just hiccuped. Then kept going. You crest a ridge and see a valley. Lights. Actual lights. Maybe a depot. Maybe a town. Maybe a mirage. You don't care. It's west. You drive toward it. Wind at your back. Road ahead. The last convoy out. And still rolling. And now, it's time to rest. You can let go of the wheel. The road is behind you for now. The truck is parked, engine ticking gently in the cold, like a heartbeat slowly returning to calm. Snow drifts around the tires. The canvas cover has stopped flapping. Even Lucy, stubborn and strange, seems to be exhaling. You take a moment. You listen. To the quiet. Not the dangerous kind, but the gentle one. No footsteps in the trees. No engines coughing behind you. No need to check the mirror. Only the soft hush of wind brushing over fields untouched by war, and the rhythmic tap of melting frost dripping from the roof above your head. You close your eyes. Feel the weight in your shoulders dissolve. The tension in your jaw slip away. The ache in your hands fade. You're not on watch anymore. You're not waiting for orders. You're just breathing, and that's enough. If someone asked you what it was like to be a German supply truck driver on the Eastern Front, you'll smile. Tired, maybe, but whole, because you remember the rattle of the wheels, the coffee that wasn't, the towns that watched, the fire that didn't start, and somehow, all the things you carried, fuel, boots, silence, fear, never crushed you. They shaped you. You made it. So now, let your breath slow. Let your thoughts grow soft. Let the road fade behind you like mist in morning light. Because for now, you're safe. And sleep is waiting. The war doesn't end with a bang. Not for you. It ends with paperwork. You wake to sunlight slicing through the cab's frosted windows. Real sunlight. The kind that doesn't just hint at warmth, but delivers it. Lucy sits parked at an angle in what might generously be called a motor pool, though it's really just a field with some oil stains and a broken clipboard nailed to a post. Merrick is already outside, shaking out his stiff legs and breathing steam into cupped hands. He nods at you through the windshield. You nod back. It's too early for words. The camp is different today, not the layout or the smells. Those remain the same blend of damp wool and diesel, but the energy. Men stand straighter. Voices carry further. Someone's even whistling, though they stop when an NCO glares at them. You climb out, boots sinking slightly into mud that's more water than ice now. Spring is coming. You can taste it in the air, underneath the ever-present notes of engine grease and stale bread. A clerk with ink-stained fingers ways you over to a folding table. Name. You tell him. He flips through a ledger, licks his thumb, flips some more. Finds your entry. Makes a mark. Truck. Lucy. You point. He squints at her, then scribbles something. Condition. You consider lying. Then shrug. She runs. That seems to satisfy him. He stamps a form and slides it across the table. Report to the quartermaster for reassignment. You take the paper without reading it. The words blur anyway. Your eyes haven't adjusted fully to daylight after so many months of winter gloom. Merrick falls into step beside you as you walk toward the supply tents. Think they'll keep us together? You don't answer. You've learned not to make predictions in this war. The quartermaster is a barrel-chested sergeant with a beard that could hide small tools. He takes your form, glances at it, then tosses it onto a pile of identical forms. Driver and loader, We're sending a convoy west tomorrow. You'll take truck 14. Lucy, you start, is being reassigned to depot maintenance. He says it like he's pronouncing a death sentence. Maybe he is. You've seen what happens to trucks sent to depot maintenance. They become spare parts for other trucks, their identities erased one bolt at a time. Merrick must sense your tension. He nudges your arm. Truck 14's not bad. I helped load her yesterday. She's got a working heater. A working heater. Luxury. You're about to ask about your old cargo, the confidential crates, the mismatched socks, the field theater props, but the quartermaster is already waving the next man forward. Dismissed. You spend the rest of the morning wandering the camp, listening. The rumors come in fragments. They say the Americans crossed the Rhine. Whole division surrendered near Danzig. Not a surrender, a strategic regrouping. You stop trying to parse truth from fantasy. The war is ending. That much is clear. The how and when no longer matter to you. At noon, you find yourself back at Lucy, running a cloth over her cracked windshield. It's not cleaning anything, just an excuse to say goodbye. She's been your home, your prison, your lifeline for months. Now they'll scrap her for parts. Merrick finds you there. He's carrying 2 mess tins. They're serving actual meat today. Not sure what kind, but it's not pretending to be pork. You take the offered tin. The stew inside is grayish, but smells edible. You eat leaning against Lucy's fender. The first bite is salty. The second has a bone in it. You spit it out discreetly. Think we'll get leave? Merrick asks between mouthfuls. You shrug. Doubt it. They demobbed a whole transport group yesterday. Sent them home. Home. The word feels foreign in your mouth. You're not sure where yours is anymore. The apartment in Hamburg was bombed. Your sister moved to Bavaria. Your mother. You changed the subject. Truck 14 have a name? Merrick grins. Frau Holly. Mrs. Hell. Her last driver named her. Said she was hell on potholes, but purred on flat roads. You almost smile. Almost. That afternoon, they call you in for debriefing. It's not the interrogation you feared, just a tired captain asking if you encountered any partisan activity between location X and location Y. You don't know the actual names. The map is covered in grease pencil marks. You tell him about the piano and the snow. He blinks. Anything else? You consider mentioning the scarecrow with the sign, the empty boots left by trucks, the chicken that tasted like survival. Instead, you say, "No, sir." He stamps another form. Dismiss. Dinner is more of the mystery meat, this time with something green that might have been a vegetable in a previous life. You eat quickly, listening to the men around you debate whether the Russians or the Americans will reach Berlin first. It's a macabre sort of betting pool, with wagers placed in cigarettes and chocolate bars. You don't participate. That night, you lie awake in your assigned bunk, a real bunk, with actual straw poking through the canvas, and listen to the sounds of the camp winding down. Someone's playing a harmonica badly. Another man is snoring. A truck engine revs in the distance, probably testing repairs. You close your eyes and imagine roads. Not the bomb-cratered nightmares you've driven for months, but smooth black asphalt stretching toward a horizon you can't quite see. Morning comes too soon. Truck 14, Frau Holly, is everything Merrick promised. Dented but sturdy, with a cracked leather seat and an engine that does indeed purr when warm. Your cargo is mundane this time. Medical supplies and mail, no secrets or socks. And your route is blessedly straightforward. West to a railhead, unload, return. You check the oil, the tires, the fuel gauge. Old habits. Merrick climbs into the passenger seat, his rifle propped between his knees. Ready? You nod. The convoy rolls out just after dawn. 20 trucks in all, none of them familiar. You're near the middle, safe position, the officer said. As if anywhere is safe now. The roads are better west of the front. Not good, but better. Fewer potholes. More intact bridges. The snow is retreating to shady patches, revealing mud the color of old bruises. You pass through villages that seem untouched by war. Children wave. Old men tip their hats. A girl on a bicycle pedals alongside the convoy for half a kilometer, laughing when you toss her a candy from your rations. It's unsettling. At the first stop, a corporal from the lead truck walks down the line shaking his head. They surrendered, he says to no one in particular. Whole damn division just laid down their weapons. No one asks who they are. It doesn't matter anymore. You eat lunch by the roadside, real bread with actual butter. Merrick makes a show of savoring each bite. Tastes like victory, he declares. You're not sure what victory tastes like, but you agree anyway. The railhead is chaos when you arrive. Trains stacked with wounded heading west, supplies heading east, and civilians going both directions with no apparent logic. A harassed-looking lieutenant directs you to a loading dock where 3 men in armbands take your manifest and begin unloading before you've fully stopped. Merrick supervises while you stretch your legs. The air smells of coal smoke and something sweet. Apples, maybe, or hope. A whistle blows. Then another. Men start running toward the station master's office. You stay where you are. Whatever news is coming will reach you soon enough. It does. Merrick returns from the crowd, his face unreadable. It's over, he says. You wait for the rest. There's always more. They sign something. Somewhere. The captain says we're to proceed as ordered, but expect new instructions within 48 hours. Proceed as ordered. You can do that. You finish unloading in silence. The men taking the crates are quieter now, their movement slower, as if unsure whether haste still matters. One of them lights a cigarette with hands that shake slightly. Back in the truck, Merrick fiddles with the radio until he finds a station playing music. Actual music, not coded transmissions. A woman's voice sings something in French. You don't understand the words, but the melody wraps around you like a blanket. You drive back the way you came, the sun setting behind you now. The villages you passed through earlier are celebrating, flags waving, people dancing in the streets, bottles passing from hand to hand. You don't stop. Night finds you parked in a farmer's field, the convoy dispersed among the furrows. There's no guard rotation tonight. No password. Just a quiet understanding that some rules no longer apply. Someone builds a fire. Someone else produces a bottle of schnapps. The liquor burns your throat, but warms your belly. Merrick toasts the fallen. Another man toasts the survivors. You raise your cup to the trucks, the ones that made it and the ones that didn't. No one mentions the future. Dawn comes soft and gray. The fire has burned down to embers. The bottle is empty. Men stir in their bedrolls, blinking at a world that's changed while they slept. You check Frau Holly's oil and tires from habit. Merrick hums as he repacks the medical kit. The routine feels comforting, like putting on a familiar coat. The orders, when they come, are anticlimactic. Return to base. Await further instructions. Turn in all weapons and vehicle keys upon arrival. You drive slowly, savoring the rumble of the engine, the play of morning light through the trees, the simple act of moving forward without fear of ambush or air raids. The base is quieter when you return. Fewer trucks, fewer shouts. The same clerk from yesterday takes your keys without looking up. Barracks 3, he mutters. Someone will call you. Barracks 3 smells of mildew and old sweat. You claim a bottom bunk near the door and lie down, suddenly exhausted. Merrick takes the one above you. You think they'll discharge us soon? He asks the ceiling. You close your eyes. Eventually, sleep takes you quickly, a black tide rolling over the day's questions. You dream of roads. When you wake, it's dark. Someone has left a lantern burning by the door. Merrick is snoring softly above you. Outside, an owl calls. You lie still, listening to the unfamiliar quiet. No engines, no distant artillery, just the wind in the trees and the creak of the barracks settling. For the first time in years, you feel no urgency, no orders to follow, no cargo to deliver, no road waiting to swallow you whole. Just this moment, stretching before you like dawn over an untracked field. You close your eyes again. Tomorrow will come when it comes.